I'm Annie, and this is the WinWin Ultra UPS. Wanted to show you some of its features really fast. Here in the back, we have the most important parts. This obviously controls the AC power. If the UPS is overloaded, this fuse can be easily replaced, which is really nice, so you don't need to worry about overloading it or your computer. These are multi-plugs or converters. It works fine with the typical US plug, as you can see here. I have my iMac plugged into it. It also does have the cool feature of an additional solar charge panel that you can add. You don't have to get that from WinWin, just any solar charger. Those come with a special adapter in the kit. I don't have one of those, or I'd be happy to test it for you, but you would just plug it in and go from there. And then you do have the AC input. The one thing I did want to note here is that this is actually a 2-prong cable, not a 3-prong. That means that on the other end it's 2-prong, not 3-prong. It is not grounded. So any devices that you plug into here, if you don't have them run through a power strip, a surge protector before that, they aren't going to have any protection from power spikes, which is, in my opinion, really the only issue with this entire this entire UPS. It's otherwise pretty awesome. The one other thing I did want to notice while we're here in the back, I don't know if you can hear, let me move my camera closer to it. Every few seconds it revs up the fan. Do you hear that? And it does that constantly, whether it's in use or not. Right now the power is running straight from the electrical outlet to the computer. The UPS isn't actually doing anything, and it still does that. So it's not super loud, but it can be a little annoying if that bothers you. Otherwise, here we have the side of it. We have a sticker on there, and then another sticker. This is the top with the carry handle, the bottom, and then the front is where the rest of the action happens. Here we have a lamp switch that just powers on the very bright LED. Turn it sideways so you can see. And then this switch that's labeled DC on off actually controls all of these here. If I were to turn it off, then all of these USB ports and the 12-volt outlets are off. It does also come with an adapter for that. Or you can flip it on to control that. These down here tell you if the UPS is getting power at all, whether the battery is fully charged, which right now it's not. I intentionally did that to show you how it works in a moment. And then if I did have it connected to a solar charger, that would do it there. So now I'm going to actually come to the back of this and unplug this so you can see what happens. Right now, let me see if you can see the charge indicator. Turn down my brightness. There we go. Right now it's at 94.5 and flickering to 91.5. That's a little quirk of it. It doesn't seem very good at settling on one reading. It doesn't quite know how strongly charged it is, and so it'll flicker back and forth every couple seconds. I wish they'd made this with the chipset or something that stayed on something for more than a couple seconds and only updated, say, maybe every 5 seconds or so to show me the battery life. But it's a minor quirk. So here we see it's almost fully charged, but not quite. As it's running, my iMac, which is a 27-inch iMac, I'm going to hold this up near my power supply. Let me see if you can hear it. I have no idea if this buzzing is going to come out on the video or not, but the power supply actually buzzes. That's not a fault of this UPS. That actually is going to happen with any lower cost UPS that uses a modified sine wave. Electricity coming directly from a wall socket is in a full sine wave. It's basically an S of electricity coming to your computer. And when you run it off of a battery backup like this, the battery backup doesn't deliver a full S. It's more like a jagged S. It's the best way I know how to describe it. So it does give you a little bit of a buzzing from most power supplies. It typically doesn't cause damage to a power supply. Especially with today's modern computers, it's not an issue. The power to the computer is pretty stable with this. Just be aware that you will have that buzzing. It's not recommended to run computers off of these 24/7, but you're not going to be running off of battery backup 24/7. This is in case the power were to go out. As far as the actual performance of this goes, I find that this percentage indicator isn't the most accurate. It gives me a general idea of how much battery is left, but it seems to stay about in the 50% mark and above fairly long, and it drops really fast over the last bit. In my tests, I was getting about an hour and a half running when I ran a speaker off of one of the USB ports, and then ran my iMac active with the processor running pretty heavily. I was streaming some movies. Had some visualizations going on the screen. So when I did that, I got about an hour and a half of live, which while it's less than what the Amazon description says, it's actually pretty consistent with the numbers. An iMac idles around 80 watts, and it'll peak around 200. Since the product page says that the UPS can run a 50-watt fan for 6 hours, the math works out to that perfectly. If we, take the 50 watts versus the 200 watts, if it can do the 50 for 6 hours, it would be able to do 200 watts for about 1.5. So I'm really happy with the advertised life on this. If I were to just be running Microsoft Word or something off of a smaller computer, I wouldn't at all have the issues with it only running for an hour and a half. But I have a ginormous 27-inch iMac. So when I'm running at full speed, it's gonna do a little bit less. But if you have a smaller computer that doesn't draw quite as much power or have quite as large of a display, you definitely won't have a problem. This device does have a 500-watt continuous load, so you could run a lot more off of this. For my tests, I just ran the computer, but you could very easily run your router or your modem on your computer. If you don't mind violating fire code, you could even stick a power strip on it and run several other devices off of it, as long as you're not topping above 500 watts continuous. It can go up to 1,000 watts. That's a lot. In theory, you could run an air conditioner off of that. Not going to do that. But all in all, it works really well. Like I said, the only issues I've encountered with it are the fan that revs up every few seconds, and then this display flickering, and the fact that it's not a grounded outlet, which, once again, as long as I'm running through a power strip, my devices are going to be protected. If I'm not running through a power strip surge protector, that's going to be of concern. But you'll have to decide if that works for you. I definitely wouldn't run an enterprise server off of this, but it works great for a home computer. All in all, I'm really happy with it. Definitely recommend you check it out. It's a nice, portable, easy to lift, not too heavy. I'd say it's probably about 8 pounds, 10 pounds. It's lighter than my son, so it's not bad. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have any questions, please let me know.